Like about to lift off?
All right,
Okay, you tell me when we're ready.
you're set.
Okay. It is 6 o'clock and I will call to order the Plainfield Charter Township Board meeting for October 9th, 2023. We'll begin our meeting with the invocation and the pledge led by Susan. Susan? Thank you, Susan. Next up would be public comments, but I don't see any public unless staff would like to participate. Have you? Okay, I'll dispense with the rules then, because nobody's here to follow them. How do you like that? All right, we will move on. So I close the floor, we'll move on. Review of the consent agenda. Without any questions, comments, concerns from the board, I would seek a motion for the approval of the agenda, including the consent agenda and accounts payable.
I move to approve the agenda, including the consent agenda and the accounts payable.
Support.
Thank you, Jack, and Frank yelled first, so roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hagedorn.
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman.
Yes.
Ms. Beatty.
Yes.
Mrs. Merrill.
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff.
Yes.
Mrs. Lowenthal, yes, and Mr. Coleman.
Yes. Okay, we're quickly to our new business. Item A is to consider an agreement with the Saddle Ridge Condominium Association, West Michigan Development Company, and Rockford Public Schools to connect properties in Algoma Township to our Plainfield sewer system. Cameron, you briefed us about this before, but I'm assuming there's a little more, maybe?
Yeah, so we've been working on this as staff since, April, I think? April, May, we've been investigating this. And as I told the group when they first approached us about connecting, I said, well, I want to get to yes, but there's a lot of obstacles we got to get past first. And so one by one, we're getting past those obstacles. We need to get an assurance that if we're going to bring an existing set of infrastructure onto our system and take ownership of it, we need to know what condition it's in. We need to know, are we going to be seeing some substantial cost coming up soon? What kind of risks are we taking on here? We want to be good neighbors, but there has to be good protections for our existing ratepayers on the sewer system. And so we've gone through a pretty extensive investigation of the existing facility. And just to step back, Saddle Ridge had built their own community system, water and sewer. So it's almost like a little city where they had their own infrastructure in place, their own sewer treatment plant, very much like the one that we run at NKSA, similar type of technology there, but a much smaller package and not at a municipal scale. And it's had a number of troubles over the years. They're to the point where they'd basically have to rebuild their entire sewer plant or connect to another entity like ours. We're the closest and most logical to connect to any part of NKSA. I guess our next best alternative might be, maybe Sparta or Cedar Springs, but neither of those would be close or extremely feasible for them. So this makes the most sense for them logistically. And so we want to make sure that we've done our due diligence to make sure that it's not going to become an undue burden on our sewer ratepayers. So we've had Prana Newhoff taken a thorough investigation at the cost of the development and take a look at the condition of it. They've done to their credit, the developer has had some televising done of the system. So that's what we do when we want to check something out. You put the camera down. And so Prairie Neuf has acquired that data as well. But as a check, just to make sure we haven't missed anything, we have thrown a clause in there, asked Doug Van Essen to throw in a clause that would protect the ratepayers, current ratepayers, by saying any major substantial infrastructure improvement over the next 25 years would be on this small group of, that are coming in. So the Saddle Ridge development and the elementary school that are all part of one development. The 25 years is, it's a little arbitrary. 25 is what Doug came up with. The development itself is, Scott, 20 years old, about? Okay. So a good sewer pipe should last no less than 45 years, right?
Hopefully double that.
50 to 100 would be expected, but to have a catastrophic failure in less than 50 years would be pretty substantial. And so we want to make sure the rest of our system is protected, that doesn't happen and cause a cost back on our ratepayers. So that's in there. We're to the point where I feel comfortable, Prairie Neuf feels comfortable. I'm not going to speak for you, Scott, but I think if he wasn't comfortable, he'd be letting me know with us taking this on as a part of our system. So there's the potential risk to the Plainfield system, and then there's the potential future risk to the overall NKSA system. As you all well know, our sewer system is battling PFAS in the flow that's coming in. And since this has been identified, Scott and his team have identified what areas is PFAS coming in. There's things that were very clear and obvious to all of us going into it. Our landfills that are full of Wolverine waste are contributing PFAS, and we take the leachate from those landfills. Kent County has addressed it, the North Kent landfill, so we've addressed it there. Other industries that may have that chemical in their process, Scott and his team have gone and identified those and eliminated that source point. And so really we're down to just this background. It's not coming from our drinking water anymore. That was a concern early on, but we've eliminated that as well. So where is this still coming from? And the only solution left on the table is it's coming from groundwater in a contaminated area. And since this lays not too far from the contaminated area and would have to take piping that goes through a very contaminated area, we had a lot of concern about PFAS infiltration. A lot of that is addressed by the way we're going to deliver the waste from point A to point B into our system through a force main. That effectively eliminates two primary concerns. One, infiltration, because you're putting a pipe under pressure, so you don't have a lot of groundwater seeping into a pipe that's under pressure. And two, you can't just tap into a force main, so we're not going to get connections on the way. So Scott's nodding, so I'm describing it. My layman's terms for what they do every day is, he says I'm covering it. So that really eliminates our PFAS concerns. The area that this is serving has been tested to be free of PFAS in their drinking water and in their sewage. And so at this time, and the way the plumes have kind of fanned out, this is an area that seems to be clear and clear for the foreseeable future. So that's alleviated that concern as well. So that's why we're to the point tonight where we feel comfortable having the board move forward with this. It's the first step of many for the township and for North Kent Sewer Authority. We need Plainfield Board to adopt an agreement before we then take it to the North Kent Sewer Authority and ask that board to look at expanding our service area. And the reason we need to do that, this is outside of our boundaries, and it's also outside of the boundaries we've established in Algoma for service. We did that back in 2016. We extended our sewer service boundaries to include a section basically up to 11 Mile and a little bit west of 131, and that's our current service area. To go outside of that is taking capacity from NKSA and other community members of NKSA, so it needs adoption by every community that's a part of NKSA to allow an expansion of that service area. So that would be our next step. And then the final piece is an agreement with Algoma Township, or vice versa, one or the other. We need to have an agreement with Algoma on expanding that service area. So Algoma has to agree to expanding it. We have to agree, and we'll need to have a funding mechanism so that all these costs are put back on this development. So everything that we're looking at here, from engineering costs to actual construction costs, will ultimately be borne by the area that's getting connected. So that was crucial in our discussions early on, that we're a good neighbor, we're willing to help you out in your situation, but you're gonna bear the full cost of that. So that's where we're at today. The first step here is, should the board approve it, would be approval of an agreement with the development, the developer, and Rockford Public Schools. Rockford Public Schools will be taking this up at their meeting in, I think, November. So it'd be contingent on Rockford Public School Board approving this agreement as well. I don't anticipate they would not, because they need the sewer for that new elementary school. Then we'd get to item B on the agenda if you approve item A, and that would be the engineering services agreement with Pride Newhoff to begin the work.
Okay, thank you. Ordinarily, I would do public comment, but we've already covered that subject, so it remains the same. There is none. So we'll move on to board discussion. Frank, do you have anything?
I'm all set, thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Jack?
I'm all set.
Thank you.
Thanks for the good layout of what it was.
Thanks, Jack. Susan?
I chatted with Cameron this morning, a couple of questions that I had, and I was glad to have the answer, is that I was concerned about how many homes there are up in there on this system, and he suggested there would be about 230, which was much more than I had anticipated it would be. And also, I wondered, and we didn't talk about this specifically, Cameron, but I wondered if that organization has a financial base that, in case of emergency, or would they have to go through a special assessment of the district?
For this, only a special assessment. They probably do have some reserve because they are running their own water and sewer system right now, but I can't imagine that reserve would be so substantial that they can just pay cash for everything that needs to be done here. We're looking at a project, I would assume, that's well over $1 million. I'd have to look at Kevin's engineering estimate, but we're talking a pretty substantial pot of money, and I doubt they would have that sitting in reserve. So this is something that either through special assessment or some other funding mechanism, they will have to pay back probably over a course of a few years.
And the good thing that Cameron told me about was that their sewer rates will be less than they are now. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Kathleen?
I'm all set, thanks.
Kathy?
Just one repeat, is that this is well within the capacity of the sewer system. It is. Thanks.
Thank you. Bill, do you have anything?
All set.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm good too. So at this time, I'd just seek a motion.
I move to approve the agreement with Saddle Ridge Site Condominium Association, West Michigan Development Company, and Rockford Public Schools to connect properties to Algoma Township to the Plainfield sewer system as presented.
I'll support that.
Thank you, Kathy. Support?
I support it.
Okay, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Hey, Mr. Pfaff,
Yes.
Mrs. Morrow,
Yes.
Ms. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowenthal, yes.
Okay. Item B is to consider an approval of an engineering services proposal from Prine and Newhoff for the Saddle Ridge Lift Station and Force Main. More to add?
Okay, not much more to add other than this is the actual agreement with Prine Newhoff. At this point, the engineering estimate is $145,000. And, okay, I was way off on the total. Total project cost is closer to $3 million for it, so I'm sure they don't have that nest egg sitting around. This is money that I anticipate will be fronted by the township and paid back through the project costs as we finance it through those that are receiving the benefit. They'll either do a special assessment or some other mechanism.
Can I just ask a question quick before? I assume that this will not take place until all parties agree to this.
Correct. We'll need all parties to agree. Someone has to go first, and so we're putting it out there tonight to make sure that everyone's clear. Plainfield's is comfortable with this agreement. Then the Rockford School Board can take it up. The other parties can act a little bit faster, the developer and the association board. So
My point is, should our motion contain language that this is contingent upon the,
approval from all parties.
yes,
Yeah, I think that would be wise.
yeah, I do too, otherwise, right? Okay, sorry, didn't mean to jump the gun. No public again, so we'll go right to board discussion. Bill, do you have anything?
Nope.
Okay, Kathy?
The 3 million, so are we fronting that 3 million for them?
When we get to that project cost, yes. When we get to that, we'll have to front that 3 million and then get it paid back, probably over a couple of years, like we usually do a special assessment over 5 years or so. We'll take a look at how we finance that, but yes, our sewer system would front that cost.
Okay, is there any interest in paying that back?
Yeah, we haven't discussed the interest amount yet, but that would be typical to do an interest on top of that.
Thank you. Kathleen?
All set?
Okay, Susan? Okay, Jack?
What is Algoma's participation in this?
As a township? So they'll have to participate in expanding our service area. So our current agreement with them, the customers that we have in Algoma are retail customers of Plainfield. So we handle the billing, we handle all the service. Basically, Algoma has granted to Plainfield the right to serve that area. So that would be their relationship here. The only difference would be if we do a special assessment, we can't special assess property in a different township, so they would have to be a party to that. So that's the piece, the financing piece that we need to confirm yet, and then in that case, Algoma would hold the special assessment.
Okay, and I'm a little unclear on the special assessment because Kathy asked about would we front the special assessment, and now Algoma's getting involved in that. What is their involvement in the special assessment?
So they would have to special assess the property, collect it, and hand it back to Plainfield in
Okay.
that circumstance.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Frank?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. I guess I already did my comment, so seek a motion at this time.
I move to, go ahead, Sue.
The engineering services approval for Prine and Newhoff for the Saddle Ridge Lift Station and Force Main as presented, contingent on approval of all communities, all partners.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please, Kathleen?
Okay, Mr. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn,
Yes.
Mrs. Merrill,
Yes,
Mr. Pfaff,
Yes,
Ms. Beatty,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowenthal, yes. Mr. Coleman.
Yes. Okay, item C is to consider the purchase of a debris hauler from Woodland Equipment in the amount of $17,972. Cameron?
Okay, thank you. Normally, we'd put this on consent, except this is not something we had budgeted or planned for this year. However, we think this is something that will add to efficiency of our staff. Just so everyone's clear on what kind of equipment we're looking to purchase, a debris loader is basically a giant vacuum. This is like a shop vac for the cemetery or for our parks that will just gobble up those leaves and little twigs. And Sue, I apologize, I was incorrect this morning. It will mulch them. So it does the mulching as well, and then shoots it into a wagon or a dump truck or some other device to carry it away. So it will make our operations on leaf pickup and cleanup more efficient, reducing the amount of staff time we have to have doing that. We have a piece of equipment that's failing us already, so it will largely replace that piece of equipment. And one thing that's a side benefit that we really appreciate, we can get by with no longer having dumpsters in the cemetery. And those dumpsters, they're unsightly, but we also, we always end up with more than just leaves in those dumpsters.
amazing.
Yeah, couches and whatnot end up in there. So there's a lot of benefits to doing this, and we figured, okay, we have it in budget for next year. We could go after it now and use it this fall already. So that's staff's recommendation. We have the funds available. So for just under $18,000 for the lowest bid, it's basically just a giant vacuum to suck it up. We'll need we'll benefit from a separate wagon, which is in next year's budget, but for this year, we can blow it into the back of a dump truck and get by with that.
Okay, thank you. Board discussion time. Frank, have anything?
I'm set.
Thank you. Jack?
I am as well.
Thank you. Susan?
All done, thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen?
All set?
Kathy? Bill?
I'm all set, but it'd be nice to know that if we have another tornado, that'd be a great help to all of it, so.
Okay, yeah, sounds like a good idea to me, so I'd seek a motion at this time.
I move to approve the purchase of debris hauler from Woodland Equipment for the amount of $17,972 as presented.
Thank you, Frank. Support?
Second?
Jack? All right, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Morrow?
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Ms. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman?
Yes,
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lowenthal, yes.
Okay, item D is to consider a proposal from Progressive AE to update the Comstock Park Downtown Development Authority Plan. Cameron?
Tom? Okay, so a few of you may have been around when this was last done. It's been a while, because I think it's been 15 years since the last time this had to be considered. A tax increment financing authority like a DDA or a corridor improvement authority, when a township or a city sets one up, it's for a set period of time. And then that community has the ability or the right to decide if they want it to end or continue. This has been a fixture in Comstock Park for about 30 years now, and probably just about exactly 30 years, because I think this has been renewed once, 15-year period, another 15-year period. We'd be looking at renewing it again. It has been of benefit to downtown Comstock Park in beautification, in business promotion, adding some events like the Mill Creek Days that really bring some exposure to downtown Comstock Park. And it's the way DDAs get their financing, it's the growth in taxable value from the base year, and in this case, it'd be from 30 years ago. So Comstock Park was very fortunate to have put this in place just before the Whitecap Stadium was built. And so all that tax capture from the stadium is helping fuel this and putting that money, which is intended to be put back into the area and help with business development and growth. So staff's recommendation is that we do continue it for another period. To do so, we really need to have a new development plan. My apologies on the crunch timing here. I didn't realize what a process we would have to go through. There are a number of public hearings, so we will have that on upcoming board meetings to have a draft document and a notice, and so there'll be multiple things coming up in November. But we'd like to have Progressive help us out with this. They have experience with this. They've done this recently for other clients, and it's a very technical plan, and so we really need to have some outside help, whether through a planning firm or an attorney, or in this case, probably a little bit of both. Jeff Sluggett's been involved with this too, to make sure that we've done it all correctly, so it's all valid as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. Bill, do you have any questions?
no,
Okay, Kathy?
That was a trick.
I don't, thank you.
Kathleen?
All set.
Susan? Jack?
Wasn't there some movement by the state to eliminate these a while back?
There's been a push over the years, and some of the push comes from the other taxing entities. And so that's kind of the downside some people see of a DDA or tax increment authority. Ours has been around since early 90s. Some have been around much longer, and so other entities like counties and libraries see it as this perpetual tool that, you know, it's supposed to increase the taxable growth of that area, but they're never seeing it because it just continues in perpetuity. We've been able to avoid a lot of those issues. Well, first, there was legislation that got libraries to opt out, and so they're no longer concerned. Counties, we have a good relationship with Kent County. In fact, digging into this, Jeff Sluggett determined that last time we renewed it, we had exempted certain county voter-approved millages, so like the senior millage and the veterans millage and the zoo millage, those are not captured by this. So we've had some working relationship with the county on that too. So I haven't heard as much in Lansing lately about eliminating these, but that always seems to pop up from time to time.
I've got one more question, and I don't know if about the legality or whether it's conventional or not, but I'm wondering, Can we ask the DDA, since they have a healthy fund balance, to reimburse us for this amount?
Oh, for the study, yes, I would expect the DDA to fund this study. We'll have to make sure that they've approved that, but that seems like a reasonable expense.
That's all I had.
Frank?
I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. I'm on the DDA, so just need to get this done so we can keep going there. They're spending the funds, doing a lot of security things with the sheriff's office, and so they're coming around. Our friend Rich, who does a great job of running that, the Mill Creek Days and all that, Jen and I go every month to try to encourage them to spend a little bit of that balance that you see, Jack. So hopefully that'll start happening. So, okay, consider a motion at this time.
I move to approve the proposal from Progressive AE to update the Comstock Park Downtown Development Authority Plan in the amount of $19,900 as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Kathleen. Jack, support. So roll call vote, please.
Ms. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff?
Yes.
Mr. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Merrill?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
And Mrs. Lowenthal, yes.
Okay, item E, consider the purchase of a new generator and switching equipment for the water plant. Cameron?
Yeah, I won't belabor this one because we talked about it at our last meeting, the budget workshop. We all know what we experienced just less than 2 months ago when the tornado came through. Our water plant was without power for a number of days. Our one small backup generator failed. We had to bring in a separate generator. All of that was pricey, and we really need to have some assurance that our water plant will be functioning through tough times, because that's not that rare of an incident to be out of power for multiple days. We've had snowstorm events where we've had power outages for 3-4 days as well, and we need to make sure the water keeps flowing. This is something that since the 10 years I've been here, we've talked about needing to replace the existing generator and increasing the capacity. This would get it all done with 2.5 megawatt generator, and board had suggested at the budget meeting that we get going on this because there is an 80-week lead time on these things right now. So this is in front of you to give Don permission to get on the list and get one of these ordered.
Okay, thank you. I'm assuming this is going to be kind of the same situation, so I'll do it a little different. Does anybody have any questions about this? Bill, do you have something?
Yeah, what's the status on the putting the buoys out there in the lake there and generating with that?
Still on hold. The financing is just not favorable for that kind of project right now. So as long as interest rates remain this high, it's going to be tough for them to get their numbers to work.
Right. Okay, so then we got a good backup, and this sounds like we need it.
Yeah, and that won't be something that would be able to power the plant in these types of situations anyway. The way the floating solar would work, it would put power back on the grid, but, and this is challenging my understanding of electrical circuitry now, but my understanding is it doesn't have the oomph to power the big pumps at the water plant. So that alone wouldn't be enough to generate the power. It offsets our power load, but it doesn't actually directly power the water plant.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Okay. Oh, Kathy?
We're going to approve this, but I don't see any quotes. Were they in there and I overlooked them?
No, you're right on. I noticed that today too, that Don sent the memo and I don't see a quote. So we can give him permission to get an order, or I don't have a quote to give you tonight, but we can get that.
And not that I would know if it's a good quote for a new generator, but I think we should do due diligence and get a couple of quotes.
Yeah, I thought he had a price at the last meeting. I apologize. We didn't get it on for this.
Positive he did.
So,
Yeah, except that we didn't vote at that time, no.
No, I'm just saying though, I believe he had a price. He needs 80 weeks to do this, so.
Okay, but we're basically giving them a blank check. Do we not need to see some quotes?
I believe there was only one option that was available, wasn't there?
yeah. So why don't we, get a quote for the next meeting and make sure that we've got that on there, so,
That's 2 weeks away, so that, it's not too far,
right.
right?
So maybe motion to postpone until next meeting then?
Yep, so is that what we're headed for here? Somebody,
I
please?
move to postpone the purchase of the new generator and switching equipment for the water treatment plant
Support.
Until the next meeting.
until the next meeting.
Thank you, thank you.
Support again.
Thank you, Frank. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brinkman,
Yes.
Ms. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Pfaff,
Yes.
Mr. Hagedorn,
Yes.
Mrs. Merrill,
Yes,
Mrs. Lowenthal, yes, Mr. Coleman.
Yes. Okay, it's comment time, Cameron.
All right. I had 3 things, but I'm saving one for Tom, so. Down to 2 things. I'm sure you all read the weekly update, right? And in a weekly update, you saw a photo that Matt Weldon took of the very last public water main put in the Wolverine project. So congratulations to our water staff, to our engineers, to everyone involved with that. There were some who doubted that we could actually accomplish all that in 4 years, and some of those people who doubted were me. It was an undertaking that I honestly thought we'd somewhere along the line run into some roadblock that kept us from getting all that work done in 4 years as we originally planned. Even when Kevin Gritters drew up that plan, he said a 4 to 5 year plan to get it done. But we did it. And so I think a lot of the compliments also go to our contractors who, I think they appreciated working with us, and so we got good bids from good contractors who did good work. And what goes around comes around, and that team really worked well. Our team, their teams, really made it come together nicely. As far as utility projects go, I would say it was about as smooth as you could ask for. Other than some bad soil on Pine Island, which was kind of a headache this summer, there really weren't too many major headaches. You know, the Northville project that we did on our own, which was not associated with this, had far more problems and far more headaches, just that one project, than all of these projects had combined. So huge thanks to all our contractors who did remarkable work. Thanks to our residents who put up with a lot of construction noise, traffic congestion, and dust. We got through it, and in record time. My last comment is.
The question is on that, your next comment does not deal with the water situation.
Nope, go ahead.
Okay, I was curious as to what's the status of our disagreement with Wolverine on the whole payment deal?
We still agree that we disagree. So
Wonderful.
we're refining our numbers on our side right now as more of these invoices come in, like you approved tonight. Some of it is Wolverine really jumped the gun on claiming that there's this substantial pot of money that Plainfield is, stands to receive that Plainfield doesn't deserve. They didn't give chance to account for all the cost. And so with every time you approve the accounts payable, that number shrinks a little bit more. But we're still in debate over the remaining funds. We did see some savings in the project in the way we were able to contract out the work and pre-purchase water main. We saw some substantial savings by the way we did this. It kept things on track in terms of timeline, but it also kept costs down as well. And we made the effort to keep costs down, and they want to reap the benefits. That's basically what it comes down to. We've not made any progress in convincing them that they should be paying up, so.
And the other thing that bothers me is, well, we have some costs going forward in terms of connections, but then what about the plant, and what about, digging other wells, and how do you put a price on that? So, I mean, I don't understand how Wolverine can come forward at this point when we have no idea what that price will be.
Exactly, yep. One last thing that's sort of related, but not on, directly on that topic. Next meeting, we'll have an infrastructure workshop. Kevin Gritters will join us, and we'll have a wrap-up of projects for this year, which are largely complete, and then a look ahead to next year. So we're past the bulk of our water main extension work. There's always a little bit of follow-up, those last home connections, restoring lawns, all that will spread into next year as well. But what are the other projects that we're gonna take on? So we've got the one we just talked about with Saddle Ridge tonight. We've got the force main from Mr. Berger down Plainfield. So a few projects that Kevin's gonna remind us that you already approved for next year, but we're gonna talk through those in timeline. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Board member comment time. Bill, do you have anything tonight?
Yes, a couple things. First, the finance department's quieted down after taxes. That's pretty well quieted down. But I noticed when I going up Northland Drive, where we had that old place there, that the weeds are getting pretty high there. I assume that he has the same obligation as everybody else in the township, and that's to keep the weeds down. And I think we ought to get on their case about that a bit. The other thing is, I've talked with Brian Phillips, who you're aware was a bandmaster, and he was very happy about how the Memorial Day ceremony came out. In fact, he suggested that I get in touch with Tom Hosford, who's the principal of Rockford, and explain to him the things I knew about history and that. And I've been invited by Tom Hosford to come out and talk and to the kids and tell them of all the things I've seen in my life that could be of helpful to them, you know, and how the different events came out, like my time on the Gemini launch vehicle team, the time parading for the then retiring Commander-in-Chief of NATO, who was Dwight D. Eisenhower. Those would be of interest to the kids. Those aren't in books, but I saw them, and he thinks that would be good. And I do too, and I'm planning on doing that, and I already talked with you about that, Cameron. That's progressing along. And there's so many of these things that these kids can learn and not make mistakes that I could have made and some of my friends did make. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Kathy?
Just a quick comment. First of all, I think that's an excellent idea, Bill, that you are talking and instructing our young people. History book that you are, that's amazing.
Changed so much.
I just want to say that thanks to the folks who did the work and their great planning with the infrastructure of the water connections, that's the only reason why we save so much money. And so hats off to them for being prepared and ordering early, and that's why the savings is there, because we did our due diligence. So I wish us the best in that.
Okay, thank you. Kathleen?
I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
Again, I think it's important to encourage some more people, board members, to attend the Coffee with the Cops at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. This week we were at the Fire Station Learning Center, and I can honestly tell you that every single time I've gone to one of their meetings, I've walked away having learned something very valuable that I didn't know anything about. And I think we are very fortunate to have two community police officers who are really taking this seriously. The room is full of people. It couldn't be going any better. And I know we thank Jake and Nick all the time for different things they do, but if you haven't had a chance to watch them put on one of their sessions, they're doing very well. Thank you again for the special assessment for North Valley Roads. What a project. I've never seen a truck come in and eat up asphalt. And they ate it up, and then they recycled it all through Rushi's. And it was fascinating. And again, the Kent County Sheriff kept an eye on all the cars that were parked overnight for a couple nights over at the library, and it was just outstanding. The entire project was perfectly done. Thank you all along the way. Cameron held the flag and led the group, right?
I think it was your association. I was just following along.
And my last thing, Cameron, do we need to thank some of the groups that came to help with the cleanup after the storm? Is there such a thing that we should be sending somebody were there organizations that came that we could identify?
Yeah, we can follow up with that. I don't have a list for you right now,
Yeah.
but, yep.
Oh, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jack?
It's interesting that Sue mentioned a couple of things. Coffee with a Cop, I went the first time just at the fire training center, and I expected 5, 10 people. This place was really crowded, and most of them had gray hair. I don't know why.
Because we have time.
And this is, people don't know this, but it's coffee and a donut with a cop. So there's a big difference. And the other thing about the roads, I live in Plainfield Acres, and our road is just completely messed up because of the grinding up and it's quite a process they go through. It's huge. So the other thing, just want to note, I'm the board representative to Rockford Area Community Endowment, and we are having our third annual Rockford's Got Talent on February 9. Good fundraiser. We raised over $30,000 last year, and it's at the Rockford High School. So when the tickets come out, I expect all of you to buy some. Thanks.
Okay, Frank?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. So Cameron deferred this one to me, so I'm gonna pass these down that way and this way. Township Supervisor meeting was today. Our discussion revolved around this. Maybe you saw this come out of MTA. It's a resolution, as we're all aware, the state's trying to take control of a lot of local items that we just think we're better off to take care of than they are. So that would include things like short-term rentals, solar and wind turbine installations, and then our closest friend, sand and gravel mining. So multiple townships at the meeting today have this on their agenda. I've asked Cameron to put it on the agenda for our next meeting, so that we could pass this along with all the others who are going to do so in our county. So take a peek at it. If you have any questions, fire away at Cameron or myself, I guess, and we'll take it up at the next meeting. I don't think there was anything else that we really covered at the meeting today that you guys, I think that's good. So with that, we're adjourned.
Out we go.